ADA versus Bitcoin versus Ethereum. Cardano is back in the headlines, and this time it's for reasons that are bold, spicy, and a little impossible to ignore. Charles Hoskinson, he has stirred the pot once again, claiming that not only ADA can surpass Ethereum, but also that Bitcoin-based DeFi, the so-called sleeping giant, will in fact eventually flip Ethereum's dominance altogether. These statements have ignited debates across crypto media everywhere and injected Cardano back into the center of the conversation about the future of blockchain. Welcome to JRNY TV. My name is Nick, and this is where we make the complex world of digital finance not so complex for everyone and anyone, regardless of their experience. And in today's episode, we are going to be breaking down a game plan about why Cardano is still standing out as one of the top contenders of 2025. Then, we're going to dive into Hoskinson's explosive claims that ADA will in fact outpace Ethereum and that Bitcoin DeFi is poised to dethrone Ethereum altogether. And then we're going to take some time to break down his critiques of Ethereum to see if they actually hold up under the scrutiny. And finally, we're going to take some time to wrap it all up with what this means for Cardano as we move deeper into Q4 and beyond. So buckle up, because whether you're bullish on ADA, a diehard ETH supporter, or maybe you're just riding the wave of Bitcoin, or all of the above, either way, this episode is about to challenge the way that you see the crypto landscape altogether. What Cardano is and why it's a sleeper pick for 2025. Cardano has always taken a unique path in crypto. Instead of rushing out features to market, it is built on a foundation of peer-reviewed research and careful development. At its core is Ouroboros, the proof-of-stake consensus protocol that delivers energy-efficient security. And if you combine that with the extended UTXO model that ensures deterministic execution and predictable fees, then you've got yourself a network that developers can't ignore. And for those developers, that reliability means that they can build without worrying about surprise gas spikes. And for users, that means transactions can stay affordable and stable even under load. But what really sets Cardano apart isn't just its academic foundation, it's the depth of decentralization. Nearly 60% of ADA's circulating supply is actively staked across thousands of community pools. And unlike the networks that tend to concentrate that power, well, Cardano utilizes mechanisms like saturation caps to encourage stake to spread, which in turn strengthens both security and resilience. And in a market where decentralization has shifted from a buzzword to a real concern, Cardano is now quietly delivering the kind of distribution others can only talk about. Heading into 2025, though, Cardano's scaling story is no longer about just promises, but actually real delivery. Hydra, its layer 2 scaling framework, it continues to roll out the improvements, while the Voltaire era is now ushering in true community governance. With ADA holders now steering protocol decisions and over $70 million in new funding allocated for development, Cardano has the fuel to keep evolving. But if you add in institutional milestones like Grayscale and New York Stock Exchange ARCA's filings for a spot Cardano ETF, and ADA, it's no longer just an academic project, but rather a serious contender for mainstream adoption. And that is exactly why analysts are now calling it one of 2025's strongest sleeper picks. Hoskinson's claim, ADA will surpass Ethereum. Charles Hoskinson has never been one to mince words, and his latest proclamation is his boldest yet. He believes that Cardano will eventually surpass Ethereum. This isn't just marketing bravado. It is rooted in his view that Ethereum's foundations are shaky. Once again, it is rooted in his view that Ethereum's foundations are shaky. While Cardano's, on the other hand, its architecture is purpose-built for long-term sustainability. He also points to Ethereum's expensive gas fees that we all know of, and the reliance on rollups and centralization risks as weaknesses that Cardano, well, the network can overcome with its peer-reviewed structure and governance-driven model. These comments come at a key moment when ADA has been trading in the 80 to 90 cent range, while the speculation around ETF approvals and the next altcoin season is heating up fast. Hoskinson's ADA to ETH narrative is meant to position Cardano as the smarter bet for the next market cycle. So Ethereum may have the first mover advantage and developer mindshare, but Cardano's pitch here is that it's the more sustainable, more efficient, and ultimately more future-proof network. For the investors, this is not just about the tech, this is about the sediment. Ethereum has carried DeFi and smart contracts for years, but it may be hitting diminishing returns. Meanwhile, Cardano has been underestimated for so long that if the momentum shifts, its upside could be explosive. Hoskinson, he knows this, and his message, it taps directly into that idea that ADA isn't just catching up, but it could leapfrog Ethereum altogether. Bitcoin DeFi as the sleeping giant. In the same breath that Hoskinson said Cardano could surpass Ethereum, he also dropped another bombshell. Bitcoin DeFi, the sleeping giant, will eventually flip Ethereum as the leading smart contract and DeFi platform. His reasoning? While Ethereum DeFi dominates today, it is built on expensive, fragmented systems that rely on a patchwork of layer 2 rollups. Bitcoin, by contrast, is the most secure, most liquid base layer in the entire crypto ecosystem. And as new DeFi infrastructure develops, it could absorb enormous demand. Hoskinson frames this as inevitable, and Bitcoin has brand trust and the deepest capital pool in crypto today. So historically, its limitation has been programmability. But that's changing rapidly with the rise of new layer 2 solutions, sidechains, and protocols that are now enabling lending, stablecoins, and tokenized assets anchored directly to Bitcoin. Once those rails are in place, Hoskinson, he believes that the liquidity will flood in, dwarfing what Ethereum has already built. The timing, it couldn't be more interesting. With spot Bitcoin ETFs already channeling billions into Bitcoin, the next frontier, well, that may be building out DeFi on top of it all. And if Bitcoin DeFi becomes reality, Ethereum's dominance could erode. While projects like Cardano and XRP, both designed for scalability and efficiency, they would be very well positioned to integrate into the new multi-chain financial system. Hoskinson's critiques of Ethereum. Do they actually hold up? All right, so Hoskinson hasn't just criticized Ethereum casually. He's laid out a structured case against it. First up, he argues that Ethereum is hollowing out its base layer by pushing out most activity onto layer 2 rollups. And these rollups, he says, have no loyalty to Ethereum. And if better economics appear elsewhere, those users and liquidity, they could migrate. It's a valid point. While rollups solve scalability, they tend to create fragmentation and weaken Ethereum's direct economic value. Second, he highlights misaligned incentives. Those rollups capture most of the fees and rewards, leaving Ethereum's main chain with less economic traffic. If rollups do adopt their own tokens, Ethereum's earnings potential, it could shrink even further. But if you combine all of this with centralization risks in staking, Hoskinson believes that Ethereum's architecture looks fragile. He also critiques its reliance on shared state scaling, arguing zero-knowledge systems and proof-carrying code that could eventually displace Ethereum's model as more efficient alternatives. Finally, Hoskinson also warns that Ethereum's network effects will not protect the network forever. Institutions, he says, do not care about Ethereum specifically. They care about cost, compliance, and performance. So if the networks like Cardano do prove superior, adoption, it could shift fast. Critics argue that Ethereum's developer base and liquidity give it incredible inertia, but even they admit that Ethereum is a victim of its own success, thus carrying legacy burdens that slow innovation. And Hoskinson's verdict is stark. Ethereum may survive, but not in its current form. So whether or not you agree, his critiques resonate with many of Ethereum's competitors. Cardano, Ethereum, and the road ahead. Charles Hoskinson has once again thrown down the gauntlet, and the crypto community is listening. On one side, he is now framing Cardano as the valued sleeper pick, secure, decentralized, and now accelerating with real governance and scaling upgrades. But on the other side, he's also directly challenging Ethereum's dominance, now claiming that ADA can surpass it, and that Bitcoin's rise as a DeFi powerhouse, well, that could completely reshape the smart contract economy altogether. The bigger picture here isn't about tribalism. It is about the questions that these claims raise. Can Ethereum really sustain its dominance as layer 2s pull value away? Will Bitcoin's liquidity base transform it into a new DeFi ecosystem? And can Cardano finally shake its slow but steady reputation to now prove itself in a full-on bull cycle? These are the debates right now that will define the next chapter of crypto. So, what do you think? Will ADA actually surpass Ethereum? Could Bitcoin DeFi really dethrone Ethereum? Or is this just more bold talk from Hoskinson? Either way, please drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's get this conversation started. And if you found value in today's breakdown, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell so you never miss our next update. This is JRNY TV. As always, stay informed, stay early, and always remember that the future belongs to those who start preparing for it today. My name is Nick, and we will see you in the next episode.